There is, people say, well, if you take them out of a poor environment, there is just as much corruption at the top. I mean, look at the MPs now, with their salaries and all that. There is just as much corruption at the top as there is at the bottom. There's not a question of changing the environment. I never forget I heard the story once about a preacher. I'll take that speech off you in a minute. I once heard a story about a preacher that was getting ready for his evening service. So he was getting ready to preach next day. And his son kept saying, Dad, Dad, all the time calling him Dad, Dad, Dad. And of course, you know what men do when they've got children, don't you? And they want to do something. Go and see Mummy. Go and see Mummy. So Mum said, go and see Daddy. And all the time he said, Dad, Dad, and the man, his father, who was a minister, wanted to prepare his message for the next day. And he just got on his nerves. So in the end, he saw a picture of the world in a newspaper, a picture of the whole world in a newspaper. So he said, son, we're going to play a game. He said, he tore that picture of the world in little pieces. Just tore it in pieces. And he said, okay, son, we're going to play a game. You go out there and you put the world back together. He said, and when you're finished, we'll play games. Now, can you just imagine that? How would he do it? I mean, a little boy wouldn't know where this country went and where that country went. He wouldn't know where Ireland went, and he had no idea. So his father thought that will keep him occupied for hours. And about 10 minutes afterwards, the father got in there, he's studying, getting his ready for tomorrow, getting his notes ready for tomorrow, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, I've done it! And his father said he couldn't have done it. So, his father said, well, show me. And he put it all together. Every country in its right place. He said the world had been torn, it was in a mess. He said, I put it all in the right place. And his father said, son, how did you do it? He said, Dad, I had no idea where the countries were. I had no idea which part of the world they went, but on the other side of that piece of paper, there was a picture of a man. I didn't know where the world went together, but I know where a man goes. I know where his ears go. I know where his eyes go. I know where his legs go. He said, Dad, I knew that if I got the man right, the world would be right. And isn't there a truth in that? Isn't there a truth in that? We get the man right, we get the world right. Taking a man and putting him in a bad environment, in a good environment, ain't going to change the man, because he's still evil within inside. But only Jesus can change the man. And when you change the man, you change the environment. Man will change his own environment. So Adam sinned in a perfect environment, but Jesus lived a righteous life in an ungodly world. Jesus' enemies, friends and betrayers, and his betrayer testified to Christ's righteousness and his sinless life. This is interesting because it's not only his disciples that testified to the fact that he was a righteous man, but even his enemies and his betrayer testified to the fact that he was sinless. Pontius Pilate, ever read the history of Pontius Pilate? He wasn't a very nice man, he was the most evil man. History itself says. But Luke 24, then Pilate said unto the chief, I find no fault in this man. And then Judas Iscariot, the man that betrayed him, he said, Matthew 27 verse 4, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. Now when the person that betrays you recognises you as being innocent, that is something else. And then Pontius Pilate's wife came to Pontius Pilate and said, "I have nothing to do with this just man." He said, "For I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him." Matthew 27 verse 24. This is what Pilate said when he was actually manipulated and forced by religious zealots, religious people of his day, to send Jesus to the cross. And Pontius Pilate could not prevail, but rather a tumult was rising. He took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person." And even criminals recognized Jesus as being sinless and righteous. When you get bad people that recognize you as being good, that's something. Luke 23 verses 39 to 41, then one of the criminals who was hanged blasphemed him, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." But the other answering rebuked him, saying, "Do you not even fear God, seeing that you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive this due reward for our deeds. But this man have done nothing wrong." So here we have it. The person that betrayed him says that he was just. Pontius Pilate, a Gentile, and himself an evil man, said that he was just. Pontius Pilate's wife recognized him as being just. Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him, recognized him as being just. The criminals recognized him as being just. And even on the cross, when Jesus got up the ghost, the centurion in Luke 23 verse 47, and when the centurion saw what had happened, he glorified God, saying, "Certainly this was a righteous man." And then Jesus himself said, "And he who sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone. I always do those things. I always do those things that please him." But then we have the greatest testimony of all. It's one thing to have a man like Pontius Pilate say it. It's one thing to say your enemies say it. And it's another thing to have thieves that say it. But the greatest testimony came not from Pontius Pilate, not from the thieves, not from Judas Iscariot, but from Almighty God himself. In Matthew 3 verse 17, "And suddenly a voice from heaven saying, 'This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased.'" You can't have a greater testimony than that. That when God himself testifies to your righteousness. So we see then